Welcome back to Man with a Wok, where today we're diving into the heart of China's Sichuan province. Known for its bold spices and explosive flavours, in this episode we'll explore the culinary traditions that make Sichuan cuisine a global favourite for those who love a little heat. From the tingling sensations of Sichuan peppercorns to the rich depth of fermented ingredients, we're about to embark on a spicy journey that promises to set your taste buds alight. Let's get ready to turn up the heat and create a symphony of flavours in your very own kitchen. Our first dish is the iconic Mapo Tofu, a cornerstone of Sichuan cuisine that combines soft tofu with a spicy numbing sauce. This dish is a masterclass in the art of balancing heat and flavour, featuring ground meat, Sichuan peppercorns and bean paste. Mapo Tofu is not just a meal, it's an experience with each bite delivering a burst of flavour that's sure to awaken all your senses. Let's dive into the complexity of Sichuan cooking and bring this classic dish to life. Just before we get started, I need to firm up this tofu, otherwise it may break apart as we cook. I need this chopped into roughly 1-inch pieces. So this is quite a thick piece. I'm just going to chop this in half. And then we'll chop in half again. And again. And roughly 1-inch pieces. You can see there's my roughly chopped 1-inch piece of tofu. You can see how delicate this is because you see how it's falling apart there. Hopefully this will just help firm it a little so when we cook it with the pork, it shouldn't fall apart too much. When we think of northern Chinese food, we automatically think of spicy food. There's a certain ingredient which we're actually going to use today called Sichuan peppercorns, and it numbs the mouth. So it's kind of like an ananasy kind of flavour to this. And as you eat it, your mouth gets number and number. To get things started, I've pre-cooked my tofu just to hopefully firm things up a little bit. I've crushed my Sichuan peppercorns and I've got my ingredients in front of me. I just need to chop now my spring onions. The spring onions are going to be there really just to garnish the dish. We'll chop these into ringlets with my very sharp homemade chopper. I actually made this knife. How cool is that? I'm then just going to take about a thumb-sized piece of ginger. I'm just going to take off the outer layer of skin and then we're going to grate this. So even though this is northern Chinese, you probably recognize the 3 ingredients on my chopping board at the moment are garlic, ginger and spring onion, which are synonymous of being Cantonese flavours. I'm just going to peel my garlic as well. We'll grab my grating plate and we'll start off with a piece of ginger first. So again, just onto this plate, I'm just going to grate this down. That should be plenty. I'll just push this up to one side and then we can take our garlic cloves and do exactly the same thing. I'll just get rid of the end piece and I've just got one more to do and we're ready to start cooking. So this is one of those dishes that if my dad's feeling very Chinese, which might sound silly, but if he really wants to feel like he's missing home a little bit, this is one of the dishes that we would order in the restaurant because it is very traditional. So that's my wok on nice and hot. And I'm going to add some rice bran oil and I'm going to take my minced pork. And once this wok is nice and hot, I'm just going to break this pork up in my wok and cook it through. When you're cooking, especially minced pork and stuff, yes, we want the caramelization because again, there's sugars coming through, but be careful not to burn it. There is a tendency, because the meat is already ground, it's very fine, it will cook very quickly. If you're using a good ground meat, there will be a little bit of excess water, but there shouldn't be too much. And you can see here, yes, there's a little bit of water coming out, but not a lot. It's about at this point now, where my meat is nearly cooked, but not all the way through, I'm going to add my aromats. So in go my garlic and ginger, which I grated earlier. And instantly, you get that pungent smell of the garlic. And I'm just going to cook this long enough that some of this water evaporates. And now it's time to add my Sichuan peppercorns, which I ground down earlier. And this weighs a ton. And I can now add my fermented chili bean paste. And I'm just going to turn the heat down just a little bit, just to control what's going on in my wok. I'm just trying not to get my nose over here, because already those spices are coming through and it will make you cough and sneeze. So we're just going to let those cook out just for about 30 seconds or so. Okay. Now to add our chicken stock, vegetable stock, or just water if you want. And I can now add my sugar. The sugar is going to be there just to hopefully balance out that dish. Also, I personally think it adds a viscosity to the sauce. So it just makes the sauce a little bit thicker. It lasts a little bit longer on your tongue. Soy sauce. Just for that umami. You're going to get loads of umami from that chili bean sauce, but added umami, and of course that saltiness will come through from that light soy. Now, just as that's coming up to the boil, I'm going to take my corn flour slurry. So this is just corn flour mixed with a little bit of cold water. Whatever you do, don't try and mix corn flour with hot water, because it will just solidify and it won't be usable. So always use cold water. Now that my sauce is coming up to the boil, I'm going to carefully stir in my tofu. Now this will break up a little, but you don't want it to break up too much. And it's at this point now we can add just a little bit of our slurry. Now you add enough to thicken your sauce. If I added all of this, it'd probably be too thick and it would go like glue. So I'm just going to add a little at a time, stirring, which will stop any big lumps forming. And I should get a really lovely, smooth, thickened sauce. And it's at this point now, guys, we can switch off the heat. I'll put the rest of this into the sink. Now, this is purely optional and depending on how hot or how spicy you like your food. But I'm just going to add just a little bit of this Chinese chili oil. This chili oil in particular has been mixed with a little bit of shrimp paste as well. And the shrimp paste will help with that umami as well, or give the dish that extra umami. 1 teaspoon is going to be more than enough. So in goes a teaspoon of chili oil. Now this is a traditional Chinese clay pot. As you can see, it's been barely used, but my mum and dad have got a bigger one of these and it's full of black, you know, you use it on gas basically. And you can actually cook the dish just in this. With an induction, unfortunately, my clay pot won't work, but I am gonna serve my dish in this because I think it looks fantastic. So, in goes my Mapo Tofu. And already I'm getting those massive hits of the Sichuan peppercorn, the doubanjiang, the chili oil, and of course we're going to finish this off with a little flourish of spring onion just to give it a little bit of colour. And what do you reckon? there. There you go, that looks quite nice. And there we have it. My nod to a very Northern Chinese traditional dish. Please give it a go. It is fantastic. And yeah, this is proper Chinese cooking 101. Mapo Tofu is a dish that beautifully demonstrates the complexity and depth of Sichuan cuisine, offering a delightful dance of flavours and textures that's sure to captivate any palate. Next, we'll tackle Kung Pao Chicken, a dish beloved around the world for its perfect mix of sweet, sour and spicy flavours, with juicy chicken pieces, crunchy peanuts and that essential kick of chili peppers. We'll discover how to achieve the addictive balance of flavours and textures that make this dish a universal favourite. As we're exploring dishes from Northern China, I thought I'd give you a variation on the Chinese takeaway classic Kung Pao. Now, it's one of those dishes that I've cooked a billion times before, and it's also another one of those dishes that if I have a takeaway, I always get the Kung Pao King prawns. This dish is a tiny little bit different. It's got different ingredients in there, such as the courgette and the peanuts rather than the cashew nuts that we're all familiar with. The sauce ingredients are very similar, but we are going to add the extra heat that you get from Northern Chinese with some of the dried chilies that you don't normally get in your Chinese takeaway. To get things started, we're going to marinate our chicken. I have a chicken breast here. Of course, if you're feeding more than two people even, you could use more chicken. Now, the marination or the velveteen technique that I'm going to use is traditionally used a lot in Chinese cookery. It makes the meat nice and tender and juicy. Now add that to the crispy corn flour batter that we're going to put on here. You are really looking at a dish that's going to be phenomenal. I am just going to add just a tiny pinch of bicarbonate of soda. I'm going to massage this into my chicken, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to encourage the chicken to absorb some moisture. Now the first bit of moisture I'm going to encourage it to drink is a little bit of water. About that much, not too much. And as you can see in that bowl, I have a puddle of water at the bottom. So now I'm going to gently caress this chicken and get it to absorb this fluid. And now I can introduce a little bit of flavour. This is going to be my light soy sauce. So we've got that umami and we've got that saltiness. Same thing again, guys. I'm going to encourage this chicken to have a little drink. Okay, you can see that it's drank most of that water now and most of that soy sauce. Now I can add a little pinch of corn flour. Now the corn flour is going to give it that velvety texture. But then we're going to add even more corn flour because we're going to shallow fry this to get a nice crispy coating. Now as we're cooking for ourselves, we can add all of the things that we enjoy to eat. So I have some spring onions, some red pepper. The garlic and ginger is going to be for the aromats, and we're going to get those aromatics coming through this, and then a little bit of courgette. So I'll grab my super sharp knife and I'm just going to take the ends off of my spring onion and I'm going to chop these into 3, and then I'm just going to slice them lengthways, making them very easy to pick up with our chopsticks. So there's my spring onion. I'm then going to take a cheek off of my pepper, or maybe even 2 cheeks off of my pepper, and I'm going to chop them roughly the same shape and size as my spring onion. Just watch your fingers. And exactly the same thing with my courgette. So I'm going to need roughly just over 1/3 to have the same size. Just going to create a flat edge, and then I'm going to chop this into slices, and I'll chop these into a rough matchstick as well, just to match my spring onions and my pepper. The courgettes, so you can see they're like little sponges. And I personally think that they absorb all of that flavour. And then we just need to grate our garlic and ginger. You can, of course, leave your garlic a little bit wholer if you'd like to pick it out. I want this to really infuse the dish, so I'm going to grate mine. And then I need roughly about that much ginger. I'm just going to take off the outer edge again, or the outer skin again. Okay, and then with this, I'm literally just going to grind this into those grooves so I get a nice fine mince. And the same with my ginger as well. So that's just going to be ground down as well. Now, to get a really crispy coating on this chicken, I'm going to add just a little bit more corn flour. So at this point, I can get my oil on, and I'm going to cook at about 180 to 190 degrees. Now, this is a shallow fry. Of course, you can deep fry, but you don't need to for this dish. To get this chicken really, really crispy, I'm just going to introduce a little bit more corn flour now. Start separating these pieces now, just by pulling them up and out of the bowl. Right then, in goes my chicken. Off comes the glove. And with the oil still on high, I'm just going to start fanning this chicken out. Back in the 80s and 90s when I was working here, when this used to be a Chinese restaurant, the chicken was always cooked in big vats and then second fried. The only problem I find with that sometimes is that the meat can dry out a little bit. This way, with this single fry, and still with all that added corn flour, it's going to be nice and crispy, but really, really juicy in the middle. And you can see that how those pieces have now fanned out. And each one of them have got a really, really light coating of corn flour over the top. But what that's done, by adding that bicarbonate of soda and the soy sauce and the water, so the chicken inside is going to be really plump, the corn flour on the outside now is used as a barrier, especially with that oil. So all of that flavour and moisture has now been locked in. So you're going to get a really, really crispy outside and a really, really juicy inside. And there we have it. I can switch off the heat now for a second. Now this is really cool if you've got one of these. These are called wok spiders. And they're just, you know, in a Chinese kitchen, they're fantastic. So now I can forget about that now for a second. We'll just give that a quick wipe so it's not all over my cooker. But I'm going to leave that extra oil in the pan. So in go my peppers first of all, and my spring onion. Now once these have started to char just a little tiny bit, I'll introduce my aromats. I don't know if you can smell that, but that's the that red pepper. It's such a unique smell, I think, when red pepper is being shallow fried or stir fried. It's such a strong smell. Now I can introduce my grated garlic and ginger. Garlic, ginger, and spring onion are used just like salt and pepper, I guess, for English. In go my courgettes. And now I can pop in my cooked chicken. I'm gonna just turn the heat down just a little tiny bit, and now I can start adding those flavors that are traditional for the Kung Pao. So we have light soy sauce, hoisin sauce, so this is just your hoisin sauce from any bottle you can get from the supermarket, a little bit of Shaoxing wine, sugar, rice vinegar, of course. You want that sour note. You know, Northern Chinese cuisine is about the sweet, the spicy, the sour. Let's give this a really good mix. Make sure everything is coated. Now I can add my dried chili peppers. And I'm just going to mix that through. Okay, heat goes off. In goes a little drizzle of sesame oil. I'm just going to pop in my peanuts now. Plenty. And then into my serving plate or bowl. And then just to finish this dish off, get another sprinkle of peanuts over the top. And of course, a few of these sesame seeds. And there we have it. A Kung Pao chicken, but never have you tasted one like this. Right, and I want some with peanuts on. There's never going to be a chance of me being skinny. I can cook too damn well. Kung Pao chicken is not just a dish, it's a journey through the heart of Szechuan flavours, offering a spicy culinary experience that's sure to please any palate. To round off our Sichuan feast, we'll prepare Dan Dan Noodles, a street food favourite that packs a punch. This dish is all about the contrast, soft noodles topped with spicy savoury meat sauce, then finished with a sprinkle of spring onions and peanuts for added texture. Dan Dan Noodles offer a unique taste experience, blending the heat of chili oil with the depth of Szechuan peppercorns. Let's end our journey with a dish that's as satisfying as it is spicy. Dan Dan Noodles, also known as peddler's noodles. So vision this, we're back in Hong Kong, in my dad's village, which is called Tam Shu Hang, which borders China, in a place called Shuttlecock, new territories. Man comes down the street, big bamboo cane over his shoulders, and he has some cooked noodles on one side, and then like meat sauce and sauces on this side. And he'd go along and the bamboo cane would be bouncing up and down, selling Dan Dan noodles or peddler's noodles, and this is where the name comes from. This is the dish that I'm going to show you how to cook today. And people would come out of their villages or their little homes and they would go up to this man, and it was the ultimate street food. And they would get a bowl of noodles and then he would spoon over this sauce or this meat sauce from this side and maybe a little sauce over the top. And then the villagers would mix this in the bowl and eat their Dan Dan noodles and then give the bowl back. So where do we start? I am going to point these out before we do get started. For this dish, you would normally use a wheat noodle. Now this is a wheat noodle, but this has been cut very, very frilly-like. So these are called flour petal noodles. And I thought this would just elevate this dish just to another level, on a visual level anyway. So today I'm just going for the slice. And then once I have a slice, I'm just going to run my chopper through that, just so I've got a very coarsely chopped garlic. I'm going to do slices of ginger, which I'll then be able to pick out as I eat. Or of course, if you're a ginger fanatic, you can of course eat that. I'm going to separate my whites and my greens. The greens I'm going to chop down nice and fine, and I'm going to cook this with my pork in a second. And then I'm going to make my dish look pretty in a second. I'm just going to crunch them together. And I'm just going to chop some ringlets. I don't need that much actually of this. So that'll be plenty of the greens. And then I'll just chop these back up again and they can get cooked in a second with my pork. So there are my piles. To be cooked, not to be cooked. Water's boiling. In go these amazing wheat noodles that have been chopped in the flower petal arrangement. I shall grab a pair of chopsticks. And I'm going to cook these so they're al dente. Now I do appreciate that al dente is an Italian term, but al dente just means that they will be cooked, but there'll be a slight bite. So as I'm eating my noodle, I just want that little bite going through the center. I think the best way to test your noodles is just to give them a little bite, to be quite honest. Perfectly al dente. Perfect timing. That really was one off. Didn't try and do that off camera. I know my noodles. Oh, look how pretty they are. Such a pretty noodle. I did my oil to my wok. I'm just going to add my minced pork. The Chinese used to use a lot of pork. I think it was one of those animals that was available, especially in the rural sides of China and Hong Kong. And the Chinese are renowned for nose to tail eating, so nothing ever was wasted. But you will find that a lot of the dim sums and traditional dishes have pork elements in them. As Dan Dan Noodles were one of the first dishes, or probably one of the very first street foods available, and this is probably why pork is being used. In go my aromats. So we have garlic, ginger, and spring onion, which are they're also known as the Holy Trinity. And I'm going to fry these long enough just to release some of those oils, and the air becomes fragrant with their lovely scent. Now on for the meat sauce. So in here we have some light soy sauce. So we'll just turn the heat down for a second. We have some light soy sauce, some Chinese rice wine, some sugar, and lastly, my Chinese 5-spice. Just a little touch of this. And already sort of like the 5-spice is such a familiar smell. And pretty much if you walk into any Chinese takeaway or Chinese restaurant, 5-spice is one of those smells or scents that you get immediately, and you know you're going to get some good eating in. That's the meat topping done. That can go to one side now. Now for the fancy bit. We're going to start off with these Chinese Szechuan peppercorns. In there you go. And I'm just going to take just a second or two just to crush these down. And then in here, I'll just grab a tablespoon. We're going to add some of my stock. Again, you can use any stock you like. This is just basically chicken powder and a little bit of water. In that goes. Some light soy sauce, that black vinegar. Now this is smooth peanut butter, or you can add tahini, and some of that Chinese chili oil that's made with shrimps for that umami. And we give that a really, really good mix, just making sure that everything is combined. So you got flecks of peanut or tahini just going through there. I am just going to give this a quick taste. So you've got the sour element coming through from that black vinegar, but then you've got that saltiness from the soy sauce, and then the heat from the chili paste, and then my mouth is just starting to go numb from the Sichuan peppercorns. It really is such an explosion of not only taste but sensations going on in the mouth. So imagine Dan Dan Noodle man. I've got this bamboo pole over my shoulders. Dan Dan Noodle! Dan Dan Noodle! Oh, I'll have a portion of that, please, sir. No problems at all. In go some of my noodles. In fact, all of my noodles. And not only just any noodle, my flower petal noodles. One of the ways that you can stop your noodles from becoming clogged up like this, and I'm going to show you on camera. I'll put my noodles back in there again. After they come out of the boiling water, head over to your sink. Let me just move my pots out of the way. So come on over to the sink. And we're literally just going to run these under cold water. Now what that does, it removes some of that starch from the noodle. Now the beauty of Dan Dan noodles, it's not a hot dish. It's not meant to be served hot. or even warm. You can eat these noodles cold. So I'm going to rinse my noodles under some cold water. And again, you would do this immediately after finishing boiling, okay? What that does as well, it stops the noodle from cooking instantly. So we're going to preserve that al dente bite that we were looking for. Bring my pot back over. Now we're going to get some of these noodles. They look so much better. They're not sticking together now. On go a portion of Dan Dan noodles that my dad, as a young boy, may have ordered from the peddler. Then on goes a portion of this meat, and that goes on top. And lastly, well, not quite lastly, let's bring those in as well. Using his very traditional Chinese spoon, Mr. Noodle Man would have poured over some of this amazing peanutty, spicy, sour, mouth-numbing sauce. And then just for a little bit of flair, he would have topped that with a little bit of spring onion. And of course, he would have put some fresh peanuts. Dad, peddler's noodles are ready. Hope you enjoy. I've done myself a little bowl. I don't know why I'm blowing. This is cold noodle. If Mr. Dan Dan Noodle came round on my street, I'd be out there getting a portion or two. It's amazing. Dan Dan Noodles is a dish that masterfully balances a variety of flavours and textures, making it a perfect end to any Szechuan meal or delicious spicy meal on its own. Our exploration of Szechuan cuisine has taken us from the silky smoothness of Mapo Tofu to the complex layers of Kung Pao Chicken, and finally to the bold flavours of Dan Dan Noodles. Each dish has showcased the incredible diversity and depth of Szechuan cooking, where every ingredient plays a role in creating a harmonious blend of flavours. As we close this fiery episode, I hope you're inspired to embrace the heat and incorporate the vibrant taste of Szechuan into your own kitchen adventures. Next time on Man with a Wok, we're taking a journey to Vietnam, a land of unparalleled freshness and vibrant flavours, from the aromatic broths of pho to the crisp herb-filled delights of banh mi. We'll explore how simple ingredients can come together to create dishes that dance on the palate. Join me as we continue our culinary adventure, discovering the light, healthy and utterly irresistible taste of Vietnamese cuisine. Let's get ready to roll, wrap and revel in the flavours of Vietnam. See you in the kitchen.